Okay, we're live. And bearing in mind the delay, we're probably not really live, even though it says we're live. So, we are the undead at the moment, Sarah. We are between worlds.
We've got 30 waiting though, so that's pretty good.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh, we've got one viewer. Fantastic.
Here they come.
Here we go. Oh, it's really weird the way it sort of suddenly floods in. It's great. Up to 25 now. Brilliant. Right. Okay, I think we can probably get started. So, afternoon, everybody. We're already approaching, or very nearly approaching the end of the first week, which has gone really quickly. So, I'm pleased to see that the posts, pretty much all of them have come in, and your blogs are set up. We're going to talk to you a bit more about that this morning and make sure you're prepared for your first topic. And then you should be all set for the weekend. So have we got any, perhaps we just kick off, are there any initial questions, Sarah?
No, there's lovely pictures appearing on Twitter. There's one with someone's teddy bear. It's really lovely.
I'm going to look at my phone a minute and see.
No questions so far, but I'm sure there one or two will crop up. I know I've got a couple of issues with things that have appeared in my Google inbox.
Oh, the teddy bear.
I know, aren't they
fantastic.
Lovely?
Ted is waiting too. Brilliant. Excellent. Oh, good grief. And there's a nice, lovely group picture there. That's fantastic. Yeah. That's a really good picture.
There's some beautiful pictures there.
There's probably a bit too much reflection on the glass, but brilliant. Okay, right. So there's lots of comments on Twitter that have come in overnight, which we'll work our way through. Please bear in mind we have only just got up, so give us a chance, please, to get some of these queries. You might be all in the swing of the end of the week, but it's very much still breakfast time here.
Yes.
Okay. So we're not ignoring you. We will get to your queries. Oh, thank you for the photos. That's fantastic. Okay. Right. So, sorry, did you say there weren't any actual questions?
No, not yet. No.
Right. Okay. So, a few comments for me then about the intro blog posts. Now, Sarah was beavering away last night setting up all your forms. So, you should have those, and some of them might even be completed with some feedback. Now, don't expect huge amounts of feedback here on this first post because, it really is just on one post. When you get to the main topics that you're assessed on, they have, as you know, 3 different parts to them. They have the answering the question, then the comments that you do on the work of others, and then the reflection. So when you've got 3 posts connected to a topic like that, there's much more meat there, if you like, for you to write and for us to feedback on. In this intro post, obviously it's just the one post, and it is just an intro post by virtue of its name. So there isn't really a huge amount that we can say about it, other than to check that you've got your blogs set up, which most of you, I think, certainly all the ones that I saw, didn't seem to have any glitches with at all. One comment I would make on that is that some people hadn't filled out all the kind of pre-prepared sections of their blog. So, for example, some themes, it shows the title in the left-hand column. And in some cases, the blog, when you actually looked at the blog post, you could see on the left-hand column, it said insert title here. So obviously the title hadn't been put in. So just check. I mean, this does differ depending on which blog theme you've chosen, but just make sure you've filled out all the kind of setup sections of the blog so that someone reading it actually sees the sort of full, complete version, rather than just something that looks like it's just been set up, which obviously it has in these cases. So that's something to bear in mind. I think some of you had issues with the categories, and we'll ask Sarah to say something about that in a minute. Sometimes it does take a bit of toing and froing to get all of those right. So don't panic if you're still not actually showing up in the right place. We can sort that over the course of the day. Right, in terms of the blog posts themselves, I must say a lot of them were obviously done in, shall we say, a bit of a rush. I think it really is. I mean, when we give you things to read, that's kind of the starting point. And what we're looking for in your blog post is for you to add extra value to what you're given. We're not really looking for you to just reflect back what has already been said. So, for example, you don't need to spend half of your words just reiterating what a visitor is and what a resident is, because that's kind of assumed that you know that. We've got that information in the notes that you were given. So to get good marks on a question like that, what you need to be thinking about is how can you add something extra? And it might be that you find some research that's more recent, something new, and you comment on that. Or as some of you did very well, you added in a diagram and you displayed your own position using different social tools on the visitor resident spectrum. So that's a good thing to do as well. And obviously, if you add a diagram like that, it doesn't add any words as such to your count. So it's giving extra value without taking up any of your word limit. Now, there were two in particular out of the ones, we split them between us. We had 20 odd each. So it's quite a lot. But of the group that I looked at, there were two in particular that I wanted to mention. And hopefully I don't embarrass anybody here, but I'm mentioning these for good reasons, not for bad. But Nick too had a great infographic to show the results of his self-test, which I thought was really quite creative and something that other people might like to have a look at and get some ideas of how they might do something similar, perhaps for other parts of the module. Although having said the word self-test, I should also say that some people didn't include their self-test at all. And one of the things we specifically asked you to do was to think about your particular results of that test in the context of digital visitors, digital residents. Okay, so I think if you forgot to display your self-test, or if you just talked about it in very general terms which didn't connect to the visitor-resident argument, then you've missed out on an opportunity, had it been assessed, to get higher marks. Obviously, we're not giving any marks in this particular case. So well done, Nick, for that. That was great. The other one was Chanel Chang, and I've highlighted this one because, Chanel, I thought you did a really good job of engaging with the materials that we gave you and reflecting them back, not just repeating what was said, but adding extra depth. And that was really good to see. So again, if you want a good example of how to perhaps add value in terms of additional reading and analysis to your posts, then have a look at Chanel's. So I'm wittering on. How are we doing, Sarah? Has anyone got any questions on any of that, or is anything coming through?
Yeah, just a couple of technical things. Somebody said that she hadn't received her link to the Google form, and that's Jennifer, and I've just replied and let her know where I've sent it. Hi, Sarah. For the part on commenting, where do we paste the links to our comments as proof? Well, again, if you check the blog, you'll see that I did a blog post on how to link comments. So that should be fairly clear. We know from the past that that's a bit tricky. So if you look at what I've said and have a go, and if you still are kind of stuck, then put something on Twitter. Twitter is, I mean, I check Twitter regularly, and I'll pick up on issues probably quicker on Twitter than I will do anywhere else. So by all means do that. And also, of course, it may be that you've got exactly the same problem as someone else. And so it's really useful. I can answer them, without having to do anything extra. And of course, it appears on the feed in the blog, which I know, people look at. So that's really useful. The other thing I've said is that I noticed on the blog that down on the bottom right-hand side, the extras bit that had the link to the next steps and the timetable has disappeared, probably because we've got nearly 60 of you and it's kind of shuffled it out down the bottom. So I will get that back somewhere, just in case you want to check. because we did have a question about the word limit, and of course it's in that short document, it's in that timetable document, as well as the study guide, so I'll make sure that reappears. But I think I'm right in saying it's 300 words for everything, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yes.
Yeah. Thought so. Every post
300
words, which is not very many words, which is why I'm going to reiterate what Lisa said. You don't need to repeat the essence of the things that you've read. Yes, of course, you need to mention them, but that's really all you need to do. What we're looking for you to do is take the basic ideas that were presented to you in those resources, those prompts, and then do some of your own research and reading and add to it, maybe argue with it if you have a different point of view and you've read some things that go counter to that, then that's lovely. But that's the kind of thing we're looking for. We don't want you to just regurgitate what we've given you. Those things are meant as a jumping off point for a further exploration. And you'll see in the Google form, if you have a look, and I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but it does make it very clear that if you don't use any extra resources, you're not really going to score very highly on that particular section.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. That's a really good point. I can hear myself talking back. Have you got the volume on the?
No, my volume is turned off for YouTube.
That's really weird. It's stopped now.
Oh.
No, it's still there. I hope it's sounding okay at the other end. It's sounding a bit an echo in my ears of my own voice. It's a bit odd. Okay, so I was just talking some feedback about the blog post. So I've mentioned, well, we've both mentioned now this issue of going beyond what you're initially given. One thing I should congratulate you all on. I thought on the whole, they were very well written. Blogging style sometimes takes a while to acquire, but most of you seem to have got that, in that you're writing clearly in a well-structured way in plain English that's easy for the reader to understand. And I think just about every post that I read met those criteria. The only negative aspect that I will say is that however informal a blog post may be, there is never, ever, ever, ever any excuse for using the words kinda or gotten. Okay, they just don't exist. And so I do not want to say kinda as in Kinda or gotten as in Gotten. They have no place in the English language, okay? However much Donald Trump you might have been listening to, I do not want to see those words ever again in the history of the universe, okay? But that's just one minor negative point. The reason I started on this rant really was to say well done on actually how good most of the language is in your blog post. So to keep that up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, what else can I say? I will do a general feedback post. What normally happens is that when all the marking for each section is finished, Sarah, Nick and I, we share and we point out students that we feel have done particularly well, or issues that have cropped up for us when we've been marking, and then I do a kind of like a summary general feedback post. So I'll do that and get that up on the blog for you when the marking is completed. So you'll get some general points, which will pretty much be along the lines of what I'm saying now, I guess. And then bear in mind that topic 1 is starting, is live now. So to end the week, you are kicking off with your first real topic 1. Before I go into that though, I'll pause and just see if there's anything coming up in terms of questions on anything we've said so far. Anything there, Sarah?
Jennifer, yeah, no, Jennifer just replied to say that she received her invitation to the Google Doc, and I definitely sent it to the address you gave, Jennifer. Just check your spam folder. But you're one of the very few who gave me a Yahoo email address, and I'm not saying that that's the reason, but I think it may well have gone straight into your spam folder, because I definitely sent it there. So just check. If you really can't find it, then I'll send the invite again. But I was pleased that most people, I think pretty much everybody else, had got a Gmail address, which does make things an awful lot easier, because obviously we're doing this in Google, and if you've got a Gmail address, that's brilliant. I'll just have a quick check on TweetDeck. Still lots of lovely, lovely photos. No questions there.
We have another look at the photos. Yeah,
the photos are lovely. That's fine. I do keep saying, and I really mean it, you know, if you've got an issue, if you pop it on Twitter with the hashtag, you're far more likely to get a swift response, especially from me, because because of my research, I'm kind of regularly on Twitter chatting to people, to teachers actually on Twitter. So it's very easy for me to pick up stuff from you. So always use that. I don't always check my Gmail very often, and I'm the same. I don't always check my Sotin email regularly. I mean, obviously I do during the day, but not as regularly as I'm on Twitter. So Twitter is your go-to if you need me to sort a problem out for you.
I'm just looking at Twitter. There's a little video clip. That's brilliant. Oh, Sean has put a little video clip. It looks like
it's in. Oh, he has.
It sounds like it's raining.
Yes, somebody commented further down the feed that it was a wet day in Singapore. That seems to be quite common this time of year, doesn't it? We see quite a few, or in previous years we've seen quite a few photographs of grey skies.
Yeah, that's true. And I remember we did a hangout. It might have been 2 years ago now, where on the last day of the course, we got the students, a group of students, to actually beam in, like Sarah's beaming into this one. So they were actually displayed on the screen, and they did it from a cafe, and it was raining so hard that all we could hear was the rain hammering on the roof of the cafe, and they had to move and try and find somewhere quieter so we could hear what they were saying. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, great. Thank you all for those photos. That's brilliant. It really helps us to get a sense of, you know, where you are and what you're doing and what you're thinking about. So thank you for that.
Somebody's quoted you on I've kind of gotten the feeling that proper use of language is important. You've been quoted. It is. I mean, it's a good point though. It's really tricky. You know, you're writing a blog which is meant to be informal. We're not looking for a formal academic style essay here. On the other hand, you know, we're not looking for something that would be written in the style with which you would talk to your friends. You've got to bear in mind that the kind of people that may be reading this, I mean, obviously it's myself, Lisa and Nick, and your peers, but it could be potential employers. You know, you don't know who's going to be reading it, and so you need to keep it appropriate is probably the best word I can think of. So don't kind of stray into slang or vernacular. Keep it standard English, but Lisa's absolutely right. You know, we don't want a formal academic style, although we do want references, which is something that we may mention in a moment. But if you've got, I haven't looked at any, but if most of you have got a handle on that, then well done, because that's often the thing that is the most difficult for people to get the hang of. And you've got a very short course with only 3 topics, so the fact that you've got it now is brilliant. Well done.
Right, great. Okay, so are there any questions, anybody, on what we've said so far? I mean, if you've raised specific queries either through Twitter or on the chat room with Sarah, and they're something that we can't sort out immediately, then we'll get to those after the session. We don't want to hold up the whole group by sort of spending a lot of time looking at, for example, a particular post that's not showing up in the right place. We can check those afterwards. But if there's any queries that we can answer immediately, or things that you don't understand about what we've said or about what's happening, then please pop them in now, because it's the weekend and we're not actually going to have a session again until Monday. So I don't want anybody stressing over the weekend that they've got unanswered questions. Right, okay. Is there anything coming up, Sarah?
Right, Jennifer's given me a new email address, and I'm just about to send a new invite. I'm having a look. I don't know whether Audrey Ang is here, but I'm just having a look at your form. You've clearly had some issues. and I'll have a look and get back to you as soon as I can. You may have...
We'll do those after the live session, Sarah, if they're going to take the time.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So in terms of next steps then, what should happen today is you'll get, those of you who haven't yet got it, you will get your feedback on your Google document, which is basically a marking grid. And I'm getting tweets, messages coming up. Okay, sorry, I'm just being distracted by a tweet there. We'll deal with the sort of more detailed queries after the session.
Yeah.
But I was just saying about what happens next. So you'll get your comments, which are basically in the form of a marking grid, which shows that if we were actually giving a grade, what sort of grade you would get for your post. Now, bearing in mind what I said at the beginning, that it is just kind of part of the topic, really. It's not a whole topic, because it doesn't include comments and reflections. So it isn't really a true reflection of what a whole topic feedback would look like. But there should still be enough there to give you some indication of what kind of level you're working at, and also critically what you specifically need to do in order to move your grades across to the right hand side of that box, which is obviously the high end. So if, for example, your post was totally text and didn't have any kind of additional media brought in at all, then you've probably got a little squiggle right in the left hand box which says text only. So it's very obvious there what you need to do in order to raise your marks in that category. Also, as Sarah was saying just now, if you haven't used any additional sources beyond what we actually gave to you ourselves, then again, you're probably going to have the section of the box highlighted towards the left-hand side where it says no additional sources used, or very few additional sources used, or something like that. So the whole point of this marking grid is that not just to sort of give you a specific mark, because it is a general guide rather than a specific mark, but it should show you quite clearly exactly how you can improve the next time you do a post. Okay. Obviously, if there's anything about it you don't understand, then please feel free to query it. Right. Okay. So I was saying about what will happen next, wasn't I? Yeah. So you'll get your feedback sheets highlighted. Now, when it comes to topic 1, I've already put a post up, which is the task for topic 1. And in order to make sense of that, you'll need to look at the relevant section of the MOOC that's highlighted. I think it was 1.8 from memory, but it does actually say in the document. And it's asking you to discuss digital differences. And we'll say a little bit now about what we mean by that, but really the whole point of operating the module in this way is really just for us to get you started, and then it's your job to go and do some research, have a look at the materials, have a look at the comments in the MOOC about that topic, engage with people by all means. Please do engage with each other, engage with people on the other course. And then construct a post that is adding value to that specific task and goes above and beyond where we kind of pointed to originally. Okay, so that's the first part of your topic 1, and that's what you need to be posting by the end of today. And then next week, Monday, Tuesday, you'll be reading and commenting on the work of 2 other students on Monday, and on Tuesday you'll be doing your reflection, which is basically you looking back at what you've learned about the topic as a result of engaging with other students either on your course or on the MOOC about the topic in question. So what's the extra value you've got from that process, and what are you going to take forward from it? As always, there's lots of past examples that you can check out. We haven't set this exact question before, it is a new one, but to get an idea of how to approach commenting and reflecting, you can look at any post from previous years and get some idea of how it all worked. So we realise you haven't actually done that yet. On Monday, in the live session, Nick will be here with me, and we'll talk a bit more about commenting and about reflections, and also about self-marking. Because when you come to the end of topic 1, you actually, before you finish finally, the last thing you'll do will be to actually complete those grids yourself. I mean, we've done them for you this time for the intro post, but it will be exactly the same grid, exactly the same comments, and we'll be asking you to say what you think your work deserves in each of those criteria, and then we will feed back and either agree with you, or we'll change it if we think that you've either been too generous on yourself or too hard on yourself, which often people tend to be too hard on themselves, actually. Does that make sense? How are we doing with comments, questions?
I'm just having a look. So, right. So Sarah said, and it's lovely that there's another Sarah out there. I'm still not quite sure how to categorize my post to make it appear on the official module blog. It says on the blog, I did a post, and I don't know how I could kind of make it clearer, really, because it's actually
Can you tweet a link to it, Sarah?
Yeah, there's
tweet a link.
Oh yes, actually, do you know, that's a good point. I could do that. I could definitely do that. Yeah, it's so it should be there. I mean, it's very easy to do. Let me just, sorry, I was just seeing if I could make the extras appear while you were talking, and it's obviously not going to be as quick a job as I thought. Right, so let's just pull this up. I put it in important announcements. Categorizing blog posts. If you just hold a second, I will put the link in YouTube if it lets me. Let's see. No, it won't let me do it. So I can't post any URL links in YouTube at all. Like, you seem to be okay with email addresses, but I can't do it. But you need to go to the blog, and you need to click on the important announcements on the right hand side, and then you'll see there's a post there called categorizing blog posts, and it's there. And actually right underneath it is a post about linking comments. So that was another question that cropped up early, and hopefully there's your answer.
Yeah, that's good. We do get this issue though every time. It does take a while sometimes, depending on, I think, which theme you've chosen. Sometimes the actual process of adding your categories is easier than others. So sometimes it just seems to happen pretty much without any hassle at all, and other times people keep saying, I can't see them, I can't see them. And it takes a bit of toing and froing to get it to work. So don't panic. It's not the end of the world if your post isn't showing yet. But we will get all these things sorted. It will work out fine in the end, really. Okay. So was there anything else I wanted to say? I've talked about the feedback, talked about next steps. So yeah, so your next priority should be the focusing on the topic 1, and because of the way the course is structured and the day in which it started, it is kind of broken by the weekend, but that's probably a good thing. The next one, topic 2, will be like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, so that will be sort of much more kind of structured, if you like. In this case, just because of the way we started on a Tuesday and having to do the setup stuff, we've got the first topic split between the end of one week and the start of the other. But that's kind of unavoidable, really. We can do many things, can't we, Sarah? But we can't change the days of the week. Yeah. And of course, living and working on the web, you're not restricted by the Victorian factory calendar. You can work at the weekends if you wish, but bear in mind that the deadlines are topic 1, intro post, end of today, comments, end of Monday, reflections, end of Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we start topic 2, and the whole process repeats. And then it repeats again for topic 3. So if you're still confused, then hopefully that confusion won't last much longer. Anything else cropping up there, Sarah?
No, no, there doesn't seem to be any kind of real issues. Just small kind of technical stuff. Amos has got a question, and I've said just I think his blog URL is wrong, so put the correct one on Twitter is my response. And for for anybody else where there's some slight technical changes that need to happen, pop it on Twitter, because that's so much easier for me to pick things up. That would be really good. And the other thing I was going to say, you've just talked about it's topic 1 next, so just a reminder to people that they need to then set up another category, topic 1, and categorize their next blog post accordingly so that it appears in the right place on our blog. Most people seem to have got the hang of that, to be honest. Most blogs seem to be appearing in the right place, and that's brilliant.
Fantastic. Great.
Can I just reiterate what you just mentioned about checking, get the Google form open and check to see what our marking criteria is during or after you've done your blog post, but before you publish it. It's really important. It's very clear, I think, what it is we're looking for and what you need to do if you want to get up in the top mark bands. Obviously there'll be feedback on the intro post, and we're feeding back on that pretty much exactly as we would feedback on the 3 topics that you've got to come. Obviously the things we're not feeding back on is comments, because you don't have to do that this time. But for your topic 1, it'll be real marks that really count. And once we're past the deadline, that's it. We're not going to give you the chance to read our feedback and then change things. That's it. So please have a look at the marking criteria before you hit that publish button, to make sure that you're doing, as far as you can, all the things that we need you to do. You could treat it as a checklist in the first instance to make sure you've done it all, but after that, have a think about what it is you think you've done that's going to put you in one of the top mark bands. And don't forget that you need to highlight what you think you've done in yellow after you've published your blog posts, so that we can then pick it up, and then we'll either agree or disagree, and you'll get feedback accordingly. Okay.
Great, thanks, Sarah. One other thing I should mention before we sign off, and some of you to bear in mind, connecting with my comment about working over the weekend, is that the second part of the assessment for this module that you do right at the end is to reflect on what difference it's made to your own digital practice and how you've built your own digital profiles. So this is why we keep hammering on about the self-test and the importance of doing the self-test at the beginning, because the best way to address that final question is to redo your self-test at the end and compare what's changed from the start of the module. So those of you who didn't do your test or didn't reflect on it in your intro posts, please bear that in mind, that you will need to come back to that again. So it is important to get your head around how things were at the beginning, because by the time you get to the end, you won't remember just how little you knew about living and working on the web at the start, so you won't be able to make a proper comparison. Okay, so I think that's kind of it from me. Perhaps we could just ask if there's some smiley faces would be good, just to check that we're making sense and that you're clear about what's happening. Any specific queries aside that we'll address after the session. So are there any happy people out there, Sarah?
Not seeing any. Oh, here's smiley faces and thumbs up.
Brilliant. Great.
I just finally want to say that when you get into your Google form, if there's anything in there that's wrong, I mean, it could be your blog URL or your email or whatever, you're very welcome to change it, of course, but let me know, particularly if it's something like your blog URL, because I'm going to need to go back into our blog and make a note and change the URL so that it links properly. So, you're very welcome to change stuff. Your names are the things I'm most concerned about. I hope I've got all your names the way you would want them displayed. But if I haven't, let me know and I'll change it. It's not a big deal. It doesn't make any difference in terms of your marks or anything. It just means that things get displayed the way you would like them. And obviously we want to do that. So if there's anything that you're not happy with, let me know and I'll tweak it. It's not a problem.
Great. Okay. So just a final check on questions. If there's anything more, we'll sign off.
No questions, lots of smiley faces.
Great.
Rebecca said, so we need to evaluate self-assessment for every post that we've done. Yes, Rebecca, as soon as you've done your post, do your self-assessment, or preferably do your self-assessment before you publish your blog post. And you'll need to do that for everyone. So you've got 3 coming up. Also, don't forget that you're going to have to change your category now, or set up a new category for topic 1 so that syndicates properly. Yeah, lots of smiley faces. Everyone seems to be okay. Again, you know, Twitter, if you've got a problem, if there's something that's not right, then put something up on Twitter, and I'll get back and sort it out as quickly as possible, unless I'm asleep, of course.
Yes, we do sleep. We do sleep occasionally. Yeah, not very often, but we do. Right. Okay. So thanks then, everyone. Thank you very much for sending in all your photos. That's really great to see, and well done on the work you've produced so far. We look forward to seeing what you make of topic 1. So have a great weekend, and we will see you all bright-eyed and breezy on Monday.
One final little question's coming from Victoria, who said, hi Sarah, just one last question. Come on, Victoria, get your question up. Quick as you can.
We seem to have had lots of questions from Victoria.
Okay, so she says our self-assessment is done after our post for the topic has gone up, or after the reflection post. Oh, do you know, that's a really good point. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, so post your self-assessment after you've finished everything. So the blog post, the comments and the reflection. But yeah, I'd completely forgotten you've got 2 other parts. So yes, put that up after you've completed all 3 parts, but don't leave opening the self-assessment document until you've finished it all. Get that self-assessment document open and have a look while you're doing all these things, because that's the best guidepost to what it is we're looking for in your post. We can't do any more than that. You know, we've shared the marking criteria for this module, which is something that doesn't happen for 99% of other modules out there. Well, not in this much detail anyway. So, you know, it's obviously really important that you use that you look at it, and that you let that be your guide. Okay. Brilliant.
Right. Okay. So we'll sign off for now then, and we'll see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Okay. Bye.